The good part about playing against the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado is that their timing of everything is so odd. Daylight savings doesn't really exist over there, so their regular starting time games happen to be reasonable in Vancouver. This game starts at 6 p.m. later tonight in PST time, so we're going to have ourselves a blast being able to watch things at a normal rate, but we have some updates that I wanted to talk about in regards to the Canucks heading into tonight's game. Starting out with a conversation about Phil Kessel. Because we did have ourselves a Donnie and Dolly clip from earlier this morning that goes over the updates in regards to Kessel and his status with Vancouver. There also was a Rick Dalibor tweet that goes out there and summarizes it. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to listen to the video segment itself. But the tweet from Dolly goes out there and sums it up nicely too. The Vancouver Canucks will continue to work out Phil Kessel this week as he continues to try and pass checkpoints on and off the ice. This was always going to be a process that takes time. Right now, though, there are no games for Kessel with the Abbotsford Canucks this week. And they expand a little bit more so about this idea in the video. You've got Donnie going out there and asking a few questions, kind of moving the conversation along, getting more clarification on things. And Dalibor pretty much says that even though there was sort of a reaction from a few weeks ago, or last week, I'm pretty sure, we saw Phil Kessel suit up in practice, we saw him moving around, we saw him a little bit tired, actually, and we did talk about this and more in the negative update in Phil Kessel video, because it was seen as a pretty big deal by some Canucks fans that, hey, he's here and he's not looking all too good, what's going to happen now? And Dalibor wants to make it very clear in this segment on TV that, hey, it was never going to be, like, easy. It was never going to be, okay, we bring Kessel over, he practices twice, and all of a sudden, boom, he's signed. There you go. That was never one of the possibilities because the guy hasn't played hockey in 10 months. Even when he was playing, quote-unquote, he wasn't used. He only played a limited selection in the 2023 Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup Championship run. But of course, we've talked at length over the course of the past few weeks why Phil Kessel was even brought on, not because he's going to be a very fantastic scorer kind of piece at the NHL level, but because this is a good leadership guy that provides depth for the team should players go out with injuries. Like, hey, you're seeing right now, Dakota Joshua is out, Connor Garland, there was an injury scare for him yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about some of the new additions to the lineup, like ARSHDEEP BAINS later in this video. So getting back to the main point, Phil Kessel will be going through a number of tests on and off the ice just to make sure that he is okay enough, get himself up into game shape, and Dalibor even says in the video that the goal is for Kessel to actually be NHL game ready. So because that seems to be the outline, it's apparent that if the Canucks were to get this done, they were to train with Kessel, and let's say Kessel impresses over the next few days or the next few weeks, and the Canucks actually sign him, the goal would be for him to actually be able to play NHL games, which is very exciting. It is a pretty interesting milestone for the Vancouver Canucks that all of a sudden you've got guys that are willing to come over to this team and try to add some expertise, you know? Like, Phil Kessel certainly has had a great career, but it's not like he's going to be a top guy anymore. And even though it may not be like the 80-90 point guy we had seen in Toronto and Pittsburgh coming in, just the value that he has as a leader, as a person that people are going to like, because the Vegas Golden Knights attributed a lot of their interpersonal bonding within the locker room to Phil Kessel himself. This is the kind of guy that, especially under a system like Talkett's, where unity is very, very important between the players, between the management, between all of the mindsets heading into games and everything, like, no matter how many goals he scores, how many points he's able to get, this could be a very valuable acquisition. And based off of the progression, it looks like the Canucks are still just evaluating here, making sure that they're really signing a guy that they could bring on and actually play. So for now, it's taken some time, but there still is work to be done here. We'll see where exactly the Canucks, Patrick Allvin, and Rutherford end up going in regards to Kessel. Now, speaking about the depth argument, talking about the Vancouver Canucks getting guys that can suit up and play in meaningful minutes while some other players are out with injuries, today we have ourselves the debut of one ARSHDEEP BAINS, because we had ourselves word from Rick Dhaliwal earlier this morning. I'm certainly getting the feeling that the Canucks are talking about playing BAINS tonight. He then later said, I like the chances of BAINS playing, and then we had ourselves the actual confirmation over here. This was tweeted out by Dan Murphy. Rick Tocchet says he wants to get ARSHDEEP BAINS in tonight. Demko starts, and Garland is good to go. And the top reply here says, Mikheyev, get ready to learn Abbott's for these, buddy. Insinuating that Mikheyev's spot in the top of the lineup is going to be in jeopardy now because ARSHDEEP BAINS is here, and he's a very, very good player. And when it comes to BAINS, here's a nice little report from Daniel G. Scouting about BAINS and his game. Here's some things to look out for. 1, he looks to improve the condition of the puck with deft handles and delayed elements to get inside and exploit advantages. Number 2, he has creative playmaking. He's got incredible vision, but it may overcomplicate a play, and he's got a pretty good defensive effort with a high motor. So if you talk about the guys to replace maybe that Dakota Joshua, Connor Garland style, I don't know, man. I think ARSHDEEP BAINS fits the bill to do that pretty nicely. If not, maybe even replace an Ilya Mikheyev somewhere in the top of the lineup, because I do think there's a little bit more offensive potential in a guy like BAINS, especially compared to what we have seen out of Mikheyev this year for sure. That guy's been an offensive black hole, unfortunately, so if there is a world where ARSHDEEP BAINS all of a sudden becomes a top 6 winger, I wouldn't be all too surprised. It would just be kind of unfortunate to see Mikheyev's spot in the lineup get removed that quickly. This season, though, ARSHDEEP BAINS has 39 points in 42 games played. He has been very, very good. And this is only his second pro season, actually. So even as a 23-year-old player who recently turned 23, happy belated birthday to ARSHDEEP BAINS, this is a guy who has a lot to show for. He came out of nothing. He was a Surrey, BC, Delta Hockey Academy guy in the mid-2010s. Eventually was a WHL guy, undrafted free agent signed by the Vancouver Canucks, super top-tier player in the WHL by the time his career ended over there, and now he is an AHL to NHL player in the system. So, we'll see what ARSHDEEP BAINS is able to do later tonight. Honestly, I'm kind of feeling the idea of picking him up in fantasy. Like, I've been clamoring and raving this entire season about that season that I'm going through right now, but, yeah. Because I had Dakota Joshua on my team, and he was amazing. He had so many hits, so many blocks, and so many goals, too. I'm kind of interested in seeing what an ARSHDEEP BAINS could do. But if he ends up not really doing all too much today, then we'll have to, pump the brakes a little bit. Playoffs are coming soon, right? We're in the tournament stage now for my fantasy league. So if anybody is in a hockey league themselves and is thinking about picking up a guy like ARSHDEEP BAINS, let me know your thought process on that. Do you think it's actually going to be worthwhile? We'll see in about a few hours here if he does actually bring some meaningful play against the Colorado Avalanche. But for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. One, about the update on Phil Kessel and how there are still some evaluations the Canucks are going to have to make before deciding if they really wanted to sign him. And 2, about ARSHDEEP BAINS and his deployment into the Canucks lineup tonight. What are your expectations? What are your thought processes on how he's going to play? And if everything works out, let's just say, like, he's good enough to actually stick around, what do you think is the best case scenario? Like, once Dakota Joshua comes back, he's week to week, so he may not be out for too long. I mean, long enough that I dropped him in fantasy, unfortunately, because I needed the IR spot for other things. But either way, if you've got Dakota Joshua back and ARSHDEEP BAINS is actually good, do you put a Mikheyev on the 4th line? Do you leave BAINS out there in the bottom with a Neil Zaman and a Sam Lafferty? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Vrishaj Roll 99. And bye.